This is going to be a YouTube video tutorial for my faculty of CSC 327, Mr. Nabil. His initials are NBM, and I'm pretty sorry about the webcam quality. I hope the video is going to be not so bad. I guess I'm here to represent various types of web services like the REST, JSON, XML-RPC, SOAP, and as well as I'm gonna tell about a little bit about web services as well. So let's get to it. I've made a little PowerPoint presentation for this, and let's see what we can go through. Let's just go through it. This is the first time I'm actually making a tutorial. It's not going to be a good one. I hope I do a little bit better than actually I think I'm gonna do. So here it is. So basic understandings of REST. So what is REST? REST is basically representational straight transfer. So what this means is REST is a term coined by Roy Fielding in his PhD dissertation described as an architecture style of network systems. So it's basically an architectural network system which is used in web services. Okay, but wait a second. So we have also heard the term like REST API, right? So what the heck is API, right? So an API is an application program interface. An application program interface, which is basically it provides one piece of software to another piece of software, which are information which is basically structured, right? So what it basically does is that if someone is request something and it's going to bring the same exact thing which is being requested by the user, and it's going to go to another software and that server is going to respond it. So I think I'm not explaining it too well, so it's going to be a better way to explain this if I go through some analogies, right, with examples. So analogy one, so let's say suppose you're at a restaurant. uh, so this is me, I'm at a restaurant and this is my waiter, and let's say suppose this is the kitchen. Okay, so what's going to happen is that I'm going to send some request. So I'm basically the user, I'm sending some request, and the waiter or the waitress is going to act as an API, right? And it's going to fetch that request from the person who's going to be working in the kitchen. So what, suppose if I'm ordering rice, fried rice, the waiter is going to say that this client wants fried rice, and this cook in the kitchen is going to make this fried rice and it's going to serve this to the waiter, and the waiter is going to serve this back to me. So this is basically one sort of analogy how the API works. So let's go to analogy 2. So basically here you can see there are three types of blocks, like something is triangular, something is rectangular, and something is like a circle. So if let's say I'm going to set a trapezium in it, that is not going to go through these blocks, right? Because it has certain shapes and sizes. So this what basically means is that if I put on a request which is actually specific, and I'm going to get the specific output from it, not something else. This is how the API works. By the by, I haven't said what the API actually means. It's application program interface. It's in our Android phones or any other mobile devices. You can also see it in our computers and many other extracts electronic devices. Okay, now let's come to the term what is REST. REST is as I said before, representational state transfer. It's an architecture style for designing networked applications. So basically, you can design network-based applications using REST. So it basically relies on stateless client-server protocol, almost always HTTP. So we know that HTTP is very easy and it's the basic way of, writing or, making a simple website. It treats server objects as resources that can be created or destroyed. So we basically can manipulate the servers and the objects. Uh, REST it can also be used by virtually any programming languages. All right. So, so already been 6 minutes. Okay. Okay. Now let's just give a simple example. What's going on with this? So let's say suppose you're going to log in, right? You're going to log into basically like what should I say? Some sort of account. It could be your Facebook account, it could be your Gmail account, any other login, or you just want to log in, sign into your YouTube account, right? So what it does is basically it's going there's some codes for this writing this thing, and what this is that I'm going to explain it. So let's say console.read write line. What it does is that it's going to show or pop up a box where you're going to see that what I mean you're going to like write the address of the website. So suppose there is user at domain.com. So basically you could say Facebook www.facebook.com, or basically you can say it's your email address. String username, obviously it's going to be a string type, right? It could be numbers, it could be characters. So basically string console.write. So then after the mail address is correct, it's going to pop up and say enter the password. While you enter your password, if so there's an if else statement. So if the password is true, that means if it matches with your actually existing password, the console is going to go to the home page. It's going to serve you the home page of whatever you want to go to with your account access login. And the console key info, so here it is just the basic code which says that if its console key equals to enter, then break. If key dot key equals console key dot escape, then return. Else if key dot key equals console key backspace. If secure password dot length not equals to, here you can see the not equals sign, not equals to 0, secure password remove at secure password dot length -1. Else secure password is going to be append character key dot key character, secure password dot make read only. I think it's going to be better if I put this in a like a slideshow. Yeah, that's going to be better for me as well. So after the example, let's see what are the HTTP methods. Okay, the first method is get. So basically we can say, we want to we want to go to a website or fetch something. So it's going to retrieve data from a specified resource. Post, submit data to be proceeded to a specified resource. Put, update a specified resource. Delete a specified resource. There are some extra other options, which you can use as HTTP methods. These are head, options, and patch. Same as get, but it does not return a body. So basically it won't be returning the body, the content of the HTTP. Options, it returns the supported HTTP methods. Patch, update the partial resources. And then the endpoints here, let's discuss about the endpoints. Say let's get, I'm going to instruct like say http.mysite.com API/users. So it's going to go then let's say I want to go to the user one, and then we want to go to the user one's details, right? So this is how basically the endpoints work. And authentication, some API require authentication to use their services. This could be free or paid. Now authentication, the authentication colon token, WA2 token, HTTPS API, GitHub. Oh, this is for GitHub, .com, github.com access token. So GitHub basically does is that it wants you to, it has some authentication process. So there it is. And there's one example. I've provided the link here. So let's see if we can actually go to the link and do something about it. So I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to go and put this in my browser. By the way, I should mention that it was really difficult for me to use Camtasia because my webcam wasn't gonna open. I also used OBS Studios, but it wasn't that much of a big help. So let's just see. So I don't know what this is loading. Probably some sort of prop software. Okay. Yeah, let's say there's that developer.github.com version 3 users. I can see some user codes. So let's say if I want to go, if I want to get a request, I'm going to for get a single user, and I can see what my server has provided me with the response. Server provides the response, and basically get is what the users want, or he instructs the PC to do the commands. So it's going to say this status is 200. The 200 status means basically okay, we have seen this in our networking course 338, and the login part is like this: login octocat ID. You can say these things are basically what the server has provided us with. There it is, our request, what we wanted to go to, and there it is. The company name is also shown here, location, where it is. It's in San Francisco. The email address, bio, public repose, created at, and updated at. These are many other extra. So there's the response, get the authenticated user. This is for authenticated users. And I'm sorry about the noise. Login of AutoCAD, ID 1. So this is almost the same similar things. So here I can see the disk, which how much the disk has been used as the authentication process, and there it is, the disk usage, and also the name, medium, and organization URL. I can also see the company name, the blog address, location, email address, extra other informations, right? So this is basically going to be my introduction or basic understanding of what REST actually is and how it basically works, right? So there you go. So the REST part is basically complete. So I'm going to go like to the next topic, which is JSON. Uh, that's better. Okay, so what basically is JSON is, so let's see now what actually is JSON, right? Now, what is JSON? JSON basically means JavaScript Object Notation. So basically you can understand from the name that is it's going to be based on JavaScript object, right? So it's a lightweight data interchange format based on a subset of JavaScript. It's easy to read and write, often used as AJAX. Okay, so this is basically what JSON is. And what are the data types of JSON? JSON can actually is also basically just like another web service type of thing. It can take numerical data such as integer and floats, Floats are basically the decimal points of the integers. Strings is strings of Unicode characters use double quotations. So basically when we're going to input some data types in a string, it's going to be in double quotation marks, right? Double quote. Boolean. So Boolean, we all actually know what is Boolean. It's either true or false, right? Array, ordered list, right? So array is going to be, in third braces, third brackets, as we say. Object, unordered collection of keys or value or pairs. Null is the empty value. JSON syntax rules. So there are some syntax rules, such as when we're using uses and key values pairs, we're using second brackets, and in between those second brackets, we're seeing that the name, which is bread, both are in double quotation marks, right? So name, which is in under double quotation marks, then colon, and the bread is also under double quotation marks. Okay, uses double quotation and key and the value, just what I said basically. Must use the specified data types. It's going to specify a perfect data types. File type is .json. So basically we're going to extension. The file extension is going to be .json. And the MIME type is going to be application/JSON. And it's going to be also in double quotation. So basically it's not going to be in double quotation, it's just how I'm representing. Okay, JSON example. Let's just go through one simple example. Suppose I'm going to say a name, age, and address, right? So basically the name is Brad Traversy. His age is 35. Note that the age is not double quoted, right? The integer or float values are not double quoted. So that's a very impressive thing about JSON, is that it's not everything is going to be, I'm sorry for that, not everything is going to be in double quotation. Address is also colon and it's inside second brackets. The street name is 5 Main Street, city is Boston. Then let's say if he has any children or not, so the children is as again in double quotation colon, third bracket is going to represent, it's representing as an array. Brianna and Nicholas, these two are his kids, I believe. So there's one example. So let's say that's all about JSON, I guess. So now I'm going to go to basic understandings of XML-RPC, right? So let's see how we're doing on time. It's been almost 18 minutes. Okay. So basic understandings of XML-RPC. So what is XML-RPC? XML-RPC is a remote procedure call RPC. Remote procedure call. Okay, so it's a protocol which uses XML to encode its calls and HTTP as a transport mechanism. XML-RPC also refers generically to the use of XML for remote procedure call independently of the specific protocol. This article is about protocol named XML-RPC. I'm not gonna lie, I actually copied this last line. Actually, not the last line, basically what the XML-RPC is from the Wikipedia, and that article, it's an article, you know that. So there it is, this says that this article, and I actually forgot to remove it. So I guess I'm busted. So, okay, history. So the history of XML-RPC is that it was created in 1988 by Dave Winner of Userland Software and Microsoft, with Microsoft seeing the protocol as an essential part of scaling up its efforts in business-to-business e-commerce. Right, so it can be used as an online e-commerce based application, web applications. Uh, okay. To business e-commerce. As new functionality was introduced, the standard evolved into what is now SOAP, SOAP. So I'm going to talk about SOAP or SOAP as you can say later part in the videos. So for now, let's just say that it was at the beginning it was XML RPC and it was later evolved into what is we call now is SOAP. Okay, let's go to the history again. It's not finished yet. Okay, so let's minimize this now. Okay. Continued userland supported XML-RPC from version 5.1 of its Frontier Web Content Management System, released in June 1998. So it was basically released in 1998 from XML-RPC. The version was 5.1. It was released in the month of June. Okay, XML-RPC is idea of a human readable and writable script parsable standard for HTTP-based requests and responses has also been implemented in competing specifications such as Alias Web's Distributed Data Exchange (WDDX) and Web Methods, excuse me, Web Methods Web Interface Definition. Okay. Web definition language WIDL prior art wrapping COM, Cobra and Java RMI objects in XML syntax and transporting them via HTTP also existed in data channels web broker technology. So this is basically the history. So I don't think we're much interested in learning about the history of XML RPC. So let's say where it is used. So the usage of XML RPC. I'm gonna just make a little bit. Okay, that's better. XML RPC works by sending an HTTP request to a server, implementing the protocol. So what it does, it's basically when a client asks to ask or request something to the server, it works as XML-RPC works by sending that HTTP request to the server implementing the protocol. The client in that case is typically a software wanting to call a single method of remote system. Multiple input parameters can be passed to the remote method. One return value is returned. The parameter types allow nesting of parameters into maps and lists. Thus larger structures can be transported. Therefore, XML-RPC can be used to transport objects or structures both as input as and output parameters. So it can be used as an input and output parameters as well. Okay, so let's continue that. Identification of clients and authorization purposes can be achieved using popular HTTP security methods. Basic access authentication is used for identification. HTTPs are used when identification, which can be certified via certificates, and encrypted messages are needed. Both methods can be combined. In comparison with REST, so if we compare it with REST, where resources are representations, which are basically documents, are transferred, and XML RPC is designed to call methods. JSON RPC is similar to XML RPC. So let's say what are the data types of XML RPC. So here are some examples. Array. These are some sort of data types. Which can be two-dimensional or three-dimensional. Array data value. So there it is. The value is given as 1404. And the string, there's something here. You can write the name of the string or anything. The value you can give is 1. Okay, array of values sorting no number of keys. See, this is the description. So what base 64 does is that it encodes binary data. See, there it is. EWN, I don't know what this is, but it's basically a data which can be encoded into binary format via XML-RPC. Boolean, so if it's one, it's true. It's just logical, If there's one, then it's true. If there's zero, then it's false. Data time 199. There's some sort of data, encrypted code. So the data time is in ISO 8601 format. There's some other formats that we can talk about. XML RPC. See how we're doing on time. We're almost 25 minutes. Okay, continuing. Double, so there's the double form, like suppose it's negative, negative decimal points, minus 12.53, double precision, floating point number, integer number. We can also take integer number. The whole number is in integer. Strings, some characters, basically a string. So let's say it's going to pop up hello world, or hello world, like in general. So a string of characters, these are also data types. Structure, so there is foo, there's some structure which is based on value, which is 1, and the name is bar, and it's again set 2. So basically it could be used as associative array. And then there's nil or null, whatever you want to call it, a discriminated null value, and XML RPC extension. So let's say there's some examples of it. An example of typical XML RPC request would be like, let's say it's written in PHP type of code. So you can see basically the question mark, the PHP tag type, but it's not PHP, it's XML, right? So XML version, so it's mentioned which version we're using. So we're going to call a method, and the method name is going to be examples.get state name, and the grams are value I4, which is going to be, we're going to give it 40, and you can easily say that it's an integer value. So we're going to end that, and also end tag of method call. So there's another example of response. So this was the example of request, how the request goes, and this is what the server actually passes, the response. The response is like that. The method response is, suppose the request that I sent, it was the string of South Dakota, so it's going to require, reply us with the information related to our request. And then we have another example, a typical XML RPC fault would be. So we basically know which is fault and which is hit. I'm assuming you guys know that as well, and of course our faculty actually does know that, and I have not that much of a great idea about fault and hit. I'm doing operating system course, and I'm actually learning about it. So method response, so there's fault, the value, the structure, the member, all these things are going to be also, like, end with another tag. So the name is fault code, the value is an integer type, see there's int and it's 4, and we're going to use another name which is fault string. It's too many parameters, and we're going to all end those, the tags. So criticism, so the critics which actually criticize XML RPC. Recent critics from 2010 and onwards of XML RPC argues that RPC calls can be made with plain XML. So basically you don't need XML RPC, you can do it with XML as well. And that XML RPC does not add any value over XML. Both XML RPC and XML require an application level data models, such as which field names are defined in XML schema or the parameter names XML RPC. Furthermore, XML RPC uses about 4 times the number of bytes compared to plain XML. So there's the main fact. You see, XML RPC uses about the 4 times of number bytes compared to plain XML to encode the same object. So basically you can say that the XML RPC is usually a larger file, so it gets usually larger because it takes the 4 times number of byte size. So if one is like 4 bytes, is going to be 16 bytes in XML RPC, which is itself verbose compared to JSON, right? So let's see the references. There are some references I've mentioned in my slides. So for further, like research, or if you want to learn about it more, because I know I'm not actually describing it so well and technically, and I don't think I'm clearing your confusions about it. So I'm trying my best, and if furthermore your references is required, you can visit these sites. These sites are actually, I've taken the screenshots and put them here, so you can actually use this for further research purposes, or for your increasing your knowledge. So Simon, I don't think I have to go through the references and read them. You can basically click on them, or these things are actually all copied from the Wikipedia. So basically, if you go through the Wikipedia, you can find these all resources, and you can go to the links on them, like some links of those. Okay, now we're going to discuss about the basic understandings of SOAP. Let's see how we're doing good on time. So yeah, we're at 31 minutes. So let's say basic understandings of SOAP. So what is SOAP? SOAP provides the envelope for sending web services messages over the internet. It's It's a part of the set of standards specified by the W3C. SOAP is an alternative to representational state transfer REST and JavaScript object notation JSON. So basically you can say that SOAP is an alternative of REST and also JSON, right? I'm sorry. Okay, so let's just remove the underlines. Okay, that's better. So the architecture of SOAP is so, see, there are HTTP or other protocols which is actually in the lower end, and then there comes the body which contains the WSDL. I actually should start from the top. So SOAP envelope, which contains the header and the body. So the header is basically the heading, uh, and then the body contains various sorts of tag. It could be paragraph, it could be the font size, or maybe images, many other links as well, anything. So list item, linked list item, and unsorted list, many things can be inserted in, but the main part is basically the body. So WSDL, XML, or the other format, HTTP or other protocols, it's basically at the very bottom of that architect architecture of SOAP. Parts of SOAP. SOAP envelope contains basically of two parts. So these two parts are an optional header providing information on authentication, encoding of data, or how a recipient of a SOAP message should process the message. The body that contains the message. These messages can be defined using the WSDL specification. So where it is used, basically, where do we use SOAP? SOAP commonly uses HTTP, but other protocols such as Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, which is SMTP. It may be used. Okay, it can also be used in SOAP. Okay, SOAP can be used to exchange complete documents or call a remote procedure. Oh, so there's something to note about. SOAP at one time stood for Simple Object Access Protocol, starting with SOAP version 1.2. So while it was in version 1.2, it was basically a Simple Object Access Protocol. The letters in the acronym have no particular meaning. It basically doesn't have a particular meaning, the acronym. Also see the also see how SOAP is used in the EBXML message service specification. So message service specification, which is MSS. So there it is, where it is here. So there is a basic diagram of SOAP and web services. So there is the service provider and there is the service consumer. So if a consumer requests something, SOAP service request, it's going to go to the service provider, and as we send request we know it uses the get option. So it get customer info, account number is present there and the get customer info is there, and the server is going to provide us with some XML service response, and the response are that this was the get request and this is the name, the phone number, the street, all the other information that actually the service consumer requested for, and the service provider is basically providing it. Okay, oh sorry, I believe I skipped a slide. Okay, there is advantages of SOAP web services. The advantage of SOAP web services is WS security. SOAP defines its own security known as WS security. So it's basically its own security. Language and platform independent. It's not basically dependent on a language or a platform. SOAP web services can be written in any programming language. So it's not just basically JavaScript or Python. You can actually read it in C++ or C sharp, and it can be executed by any platform. That's the best part of SOAP, I believe. So that's a very good advantage to have. Okay, the disadvantage. So as SOAP has some advantage, it's going to have some disadvantage as well. It's basically slow, you can say. SOAP uses XML format per that must be parsed to be read. It defines many standards that must be followed while developing the SOAP application, so it's slow and consumes more bandwidth. So it's slow and it consumes more bandwidth and resources as well. So that's the bad side of SOAP. WSDL development. SOAP uses WSDL and does not have any other mechanism to discover the service. So if there is no WSDL, and there's no SOAP, so it's totally dependent on WSDL. There is an example of SOAP. Basically, there is a Java application, it could be any other application, and there is the web application. Let me go to the slideshow. There it is. It's a little bit better this way. Java application. So there is the web service client files.java through WSDL swing class, and there's main.java. I don't think this is very clear. I actually downloaded the picture from internet. Okay, so what it does is that it goes to the network, it connects with the network, and the network goes with the web application. Application server is basically what it does is it serves the Java code and it's going to go to the database of MySQL. Suppose it's MySQL, and it's going to retrieve, or you can get the information that you requested. So it's going to go through this and then connect to the web application, and then the web application is going to send the requested or retrieved data through the network to the the client. So let's just minimize it again. Okay, so how SOAP actually operates is that there is the client and there is the web server. So when we send a request, it gets sterilized and the message is in XML. So SOAP requests and the SOAP message is goes to XML, then it de-sterilizes and it goes to the web server. So the server then, after receiving the request, it's going to send back the information in a sterilized way. And the sterilized goes to the SOAP response. There is the SOAP request and there is the SOAP response. The response, what it does is basically it gets the sterilized version and then it de-sterilizes it and it sends it to the client. That's how SOAP operates. Okay, now let's just compare SOAP with REST. So SOAP versus REST, if we compare the two, there's our client and there's the same thing for REST, and there's the server for REST as well. So let's say this is the data. SOAP is going to make it standard, the sterilized part, then it gets actually a larger data, it gets huge data. You can get or send it to the server. but in the REST procedure it doesn't actually gets sterilized, so it doesn't have substandard, so it's just sends the data or receives the data. REST are mostly used in industry because industries has to like send and receive a larger amount of data in a short period of time. So SOAP is basically slow, as I said before. Okay, SOAP protocol concepts. So these are some of the protocol concepts that there are SOAP nodes. These are, let me put this in a slideshow. Okay, these are physical or logical machines with processes unit which are used to transmit or receive or process SOAP messages. These are analogs, okay, SOAP roles, which are basically over the path of a SOAP message, and all the nodes assume a specific role. The role of the node defines the action of the node performs on the message it receives. For example, a role none means that no node will be processed, so her header in the process the SOAP header in any way and simply transmit the message along its path. SOAP protocol binding and SOAP features. So let's just talk about the protocol binding. Basically, it does is that a SOAP needs the conjunction with other protocols must be transferred over the network. For example, SOAP message could be use TCP as a lower layer protocol transfer message. In OSI model, we when we learned about it, there was 7 layers, and there is in those layers there are some sub layers, and there's a TCP as a lower protocol transfer. And these bindings are defined as SOAP protocol binding framework. There are some features of SOAP, there are some modules of SOAP, and I don't think we have enough time for discussing all of these. So, because we still have web services to discuss about. There's some data encapsulation concept, the SOAP message. So, SOAP actually can encapsulate data, and let's just talk about this in a brief sentences. SOAP message it represents the information being exchanged between two SOAP nodes. SOAP involve envelope as per its name. So as its name is envelope, it is enclosing the element of XML message identifying as a SOAP message. There are SOAP header block, which actually basically does is block the headers. SOAP header, a collection of one or more heads blocks targeted to each SOAP receiver. SOAP body contains the body of message intent to SOAP receiver. The intention and processing SOAP body identification header blocks SOAP fault. In case of SOAP node fails to process SOAP messages, it adds the fault information to the SOAP fault element. The element is contained with the SOAP body as a child element. And later, there's some encapsulation code for SOAP. So this is the encapsulation SOAP envelope XMLNS clone SOAP HTTP W3 organization. There's a link or address. So what it does, there's the header, there's the body part, the get stock price, let's say Google get stock price, and then we're going to end those tags, right? Okay, advantages of SOAPs neutrally characteristics characteristic explicitly makes it suitable for use with any transport protocol. Implementations often use HTTP as transport protocol, but other popular transport protocols of other what is protocols can be used. For example, SOAP can also be used over SMTP, JMS, and message queues. SOAP, when combined with HTTP post-response exchange tunnels, easily goes through existing firewalls and proxies. The consequently doesn't require communication infrastructures that exist for processing HTTP post-response changes. SOAP has available to it all the facilities of XML, including easy internationalization and extensibility with XML namespaces. Disadvantages is when using standard implementation and the default SOAP HTTP binding, the XML info set is serialized as XML to improve performance. For the special case of XML with binary objects, the message transmission optimization mechanism was introduced. When relying on HTTP as a transport protocol and not being using WS addressing or as an ESB, the roles of the interacting parties are fixed. Only one party, the client, can use the services of the other. The verbosity of the protocol, slow parsing speed of XML, and the lack of standardized interaction model led to domination in the field services using HTTP protocol more directly, right? So these are the same types of references we can actually go through for learning more about SOAP. There are 17 references. I just took a screenshot of them and put it there. There's also PDF links. So basically you can go to the Wikipedia and download all of these and find these links as well. So the last one is basic understanding of web services. Let's see how we're doing on time. We have 46 minutes here. Okay, the basic understanding of web services. Okay. What is web services? A web service is a service offered by an electronic device to another electronic device communicating with each other via the World Wide Web. www dot, the way we write it. World Wide Web. In a web service, web technologies such as HTTP, originally designed for human-to-machine communication, is basically used to communicate with the machine, is utilized for machine-to-machine communication, more specifically for transferring machine-readable file formats such as XML and JSON. In practice, the web service typically provides an object-oriented web-based interface to the database server utilized, for example, by another web server or by mobile application. Basically, there's databases where the information is stored and we can go through them with the web-based application, like for Facebook, and go to www.facebook.com, or you can actually have the app on your mobile phone, the Facebook app, and the same thing, it actually connects with database as well. Okay, another common application offered to the end user may be mashup, where a web server consumes several web services in different machines and compiles the content into the user interface. The explanation. So what I said was the web services, what it does, standardize the way inter integrating web-based application using XML, SOAP, WSDL, UDDI, open standards, or an Internet Protocol backbone. XML is the data format used to contain the data and the provide metadata around it. SOAP is used to transfer the data. WSDL is used for describing the services available, and UDDI list is what happens to the services is available. A web service is a method of communication between two electronic devices over a network. It's a software function provided at the network address over the web within the service, always on the concept of utility computing. It continues more further. The rules of communication between different systems and need to be defined, such as how one system can request data from the another system, which specific parameters are needed in the data request, what would be the structure of the data proceeded. Normally data is exchanged in XML files, and the structure of XML file is validated against an .xsd file. What error messages to display when a certain rule for communication is not observed to make troubleshooting easier. So Web API, I actually talked about the API before. Web API is a development in web services where emphasis has been moving to simpler representational state transfer REST, the first topic that I talked about at the beginning, based communication. RESTful APIs is basically the REST APIs as well, almost similar is API do not require XML-based web service protocols SOAP and WSDS to support their interface. So basically, you can easily say that REST is much faster than SOAP, but SOAP actually is much more reliable because it's encoded. So there are web services that uses markup languages. These are the web services markup languages: JSON RPC, JSON WSP, web templates, web services description language, the WSDL from the W3C, WSDL that I talked about before as well. XML interface for network services, web services, conversation language, web services, flow language, alright, and many other more. So now let's regression testing of web services. Functional and non-functional testing of web services is done within the help of WSDL for parsing. Regression testing is performed by identifying the changes made to upgrade a software. Web services regression testing needs can be categorized in three different ways, namely changes in WSDL, changes in code. So remember this, if I change the code, and selective retesting of the operation. So I can change the code and again I can, like retest the operation with help of WSDL. Okay, we can capture the above three needs in three intermediate forms of subset WSDL, namely difference WSDL, unit WSDL, and reduced WSDL. Uh, Basically, difference WSDL is DWSDL, unit WSDL is UWSDL, reduced WSDL is RWSDL, respectively. These three subset WSDLs are the combined form of combined WSDL. So C basically stands for combined. Is that further use of regression testing of the web services. It continues on, so let's read this again. Not again, the first time. This will help an automated web service change management system by performing the selection of the relevant test cases to construct a reduced test suite from the old test suite. Okay, so I believe you can understand this by just reading it, that it's going to perform a relevant test case, but it's not going to be the old one, it's going to be the new one. Web services testing can also be automated using several test automation tools like SOAP UI, SOAP user interface. We all know that UI means user interface. Okay. Oracle application testing suite, OATS, and unified functional testing, Selenium, etc. So there's a diagram for there's a diagram. Service-oriented architecture. This is for web services. So you see there's users. So there's some platform, and this suppose there's data which is maintained in cloud. So platforms as a service. These are the mesh. These are stuck together. These mashups. And software as a service, it can go both to the mashups and to the platforms as a service. And the software as a service is which basically comes from the data as a service, and the data is basically at the very least can be divided into binaries 001. So you can basically see the diagram. Web service change management. So web service change management is work related to the capture and visualizations of the changes made to the web service. Visualization and the computation of changes can be done in the form of intermediate artifacts subset WSDL. The insight on computing of change impact is helpful in testing top-down development and reduced regression testing. Automated Web Services Change Management (AWSCM) Automated Web Service Change Management is a tool that identifies subset operations in a WSDL file and to construct a subset WSDL. There are some references if you want to learn more about web references, and I believe there are almost 13, like references, and you can actually go to the Wikipedia and also use them to search for different options, different things that you want to learn about web services. Here it is the REST architecture and many other IEEE internet computing. You can basically learn a lot of things. This is the basically all there it is about web services. I can actually basic things that you can learn. So there's my slide presentation for CSE 327 software engineering course for our faculty, and I believe it has almost gone to 56 minutes. It was supposed to be a 50 minutes presentation, and I don't mind adding some extra 6 to 10 minutes. The fact is I didn't have the external webcam, so the video quality is actually really poor, and I never had any previous experience using the things like Camtasia or OBS or any other thing. So this is going to be difficult for me, and I don't think it's going to be such a good or very good presentation what I have done, but I think I did at least a little bit better than I had expected from me. So thank you. This is my presentation. Thank you.